Hi everyone, this is Heather. Thanks so much for joining me. Today I've got a card tutorial for you to make a fun Happy Thanksgiving card, and we're going to be using a paper piecing technique, which is a really great way to use up some of your scraps of pattern paper and to add some color and pattern to your cards without actually using any coloring medium. So this is the card that we're going to make, and the stamps that I used are from a Lawn Fawn set called Harvest Season. And I wanted to point out this yellowing is the reason that you don't ever want to leave your stamps in direct sunlight. I bought this set secondhand, and because normally I would make sure that my stamps were stored away from the sunlight, but this is what can happen to clear polymer stamps. They become yellowed. A lot of times it does not affect the way that they stamp, but sometimes it can begin to break down your stamps, so I did want to point that out. So always make sure that you're keeping them in a drawer or envelopes or someplace where they're not in direct sunlight, because this is what can happen. So if you have some stamps and you're wondering how that happened, maybe you left them near an open window or something like that and they got exposed to the sunlight. But anyway, we're using the, just a little tip there, we're using the pumpkin, the open leaf, and the Happy Thanksgiving words. If you don't have this set, any kind of open design stamp will work with this technique. So any kind of a large pumpkin or leaf that you might have. And so as far as paper goes, I took some craft cardstock and just cut it in half and scored and folded it for my cardstock base, just a standard 8.5 by 11. I took another piece of the craft cardstock and took the Stitched Shapes oval die from Stampin' Up. This is the largest of the oval dies, and I have just already run it through my die cut machine. So I have this nice large oval with a little bit of stitching on there. Then you're going to need just some scraps of pattern paper. I just rummaged through my giant container of scraps of pattern paper and grabbed some that would work. So you want a couple for the back of your card. I just got this pretty orange squares and some brown stripes. Then a little bit more of the orange square and some green hexagon, just whatever you have that's got some pretty fall colors. You're also going to want some washi tape or some ribbon, or you could even also use a just another strip of pattern paper. And because washi tape, most washi tapes are a little bit see-through, when you lay them down over top of a pattern, it shows through, and sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. So for this particular project where I've got this border across the back, it just didn't work. So what I have done is just take a piece of white cardstock. I've cut it the width of my card, which is 4 1/4, and then also just cut it to the same width as my washi tape. So if you're using washi tape, just measure the width of your tape and just cut yourself a piece of white paper so that you can see that nice pretty pattern of the washi tape there. So we're going to start off with the background. So I have cut my 2 background pieces of pattern paper to 4 by 2 5/8 so that they will butt up against each other on the front of my card. So I'm just going to take my regular adhesive and adhere these to my card. The brown on the top and the orange on the bottom. So with these dimensions, you will get just a little bit of a border of that craft cardstock showing through, or showing around the edge rather, like that. So you still have that little bit of a border there. And I'm going to take my white strip of paper that I cut to the same width as my washi tape, and I'm just going to lay that over top of where those two pieces of pattern paper are butting up against each other, like that. And my washi tape, and I like to, you know, just pull off one big piece and kind of get up over top of it and lay it down over that white strip and kind of press it down. And you can either tear it off or just take your scissors and snip that off. You could also fold it over if you don't mind it showing on the back, but I'm just going to take my scissors and just trim that off so you can see, now you can see that pretty pattern of the washi tape there. So we're going to set that off to the side for now. We're going to grab our craft die cut oval and our green and orange pattern paper, and then I'm also going to bring over a piece of scrap paper for the pattern piecing, just so that we don't get any possibly get any ink on our work surface. So the first thing you want to do is give yourself a base to work with. So I am inking up my big pumpkin stamp, and I'm stamping it directly on the die cut oval in the center, and that gives us a place to place our pieces over top, but it also gives us those little kind of pumpkin tendrils will still show through there. So let's bring our scrap piece of paper and our two little pieces of pattern paper. So you're going to ink up the pumpkin again, and all you really need to stamp out onto the orange piece is just the middle part of the pumpkin. So if part of it goes off, if you have a tiny little piece of scrap of paper, that's okay, because all we want is just the middle of the pumpkin. Then we're going to ink up just the top of the pumpkin, and same thing with the stem. We just want the stem of the pumpkin stamped out, which is why we want our scratch paper there. And then also on the green piece, we're going to stamp out our leaf. And these can be stamped anywhere because we're going to cut them out. We're done with our scratch paper for now. And now we're going to cut out our pieces. And you want to leave the black line, but cut as close as you possibly can to the black line, leaving as much of it as possible. That is another reason, though, to have that piece, or sorry, the base piece stamped. So in case you do trim off a little bit too much of the black, that original one that we stamped will still have that line image. So I've just cut that out. I'm just going to throw away the rest. Do the same thing with the stem of the pumpkin. Just cutting right on the edge of that black line. Like that. So basically we're kind of making like a little puzzle to put together. And then we're also going to cut the leaf out. And the stem is a little fiddly, so I did leave a little bit of a border around the stem. It would be really hard to kind of cut right along that thin stem there. Get some of that excess away. That cut out. So you want some good sharp scissors to get some nice cut lines on there. So here's our leaf, those scraps out of the way. So now we want to pull our base over, and we're just going to add some adhesive to the back of the pumpkin that we cut, and you're going to just line that up right over top And that is just such an easy but cool way to add some color and texture. Do the same with the stem. And now all of a sudden we have a really pretty pumpkin that's nice, got some nice pattern and texture, and we've used up some of our scraps. So also I think I forgot in the beginning to mention that I also used a tiny little clothespin, and I'm just gonna grab a glue dot and place it on top of my clothespin and put the leaf on there, and just makes a nice little accent. And now I'm going to pull my card base over and put this down with some foam tape. And I'm just going to put a couple of squares of that on the back of the oval and put that on the card. And I raised it up. I didn't put it exactly in the center. I lifted it up just a little bit. I'm going to put my clip on the top here. And then one of my favorite things about clear stamps is that they're, especially long thin stamps like sentiments, they are somewhat pliable, so you can curve them on your block. So instead of using it straight like you see in the stamp set, you can actually place them on your block curved. So that gives you some more options. You could also like make a wave or put two together and form a circle. There's a lot of fun things that you can do because these are a little bit flexible. So I liked having the curve sort of mimic the curve of the oval. I'm gonna stamp that onto the orange part of the pattern paper at the bottom of my card, like that. And there we have a really pretty but quick and simple fun card for autumn, fall, and Thanksgiving. So I love this technique. Paper piecing is just so quick, easy, fun. It's a great way to use up some of your pattern paper scraps that you might have hanging around. And I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please check out my channel. I have lots of other card tutorials and some product reviews. And I hope that you have a wonderful Thanksgiving and fall. Have a great day. This is Heather. Bye.